So welcome to our next step, and in this step, which might be a little bit a long introduction, we want to exchange beams and want to use beams with precamber. I've prepared for this two families. I will explain these families, how they work later on, so that you may use them or may use them for a start, because also a family is always something which is being developed continuously. So, by the way, we have here our reference survey point here on the left bottom, and now what we do, we zoom to our bridge. Remember, in the last step we had a project north and true north, so our bridge is now horizontally. And somewhere I remember we also created a plan view here, having an elevation. So bridge elevation, let's go to our bridge elevation and then let's see. That looks like beautiful. Still everything there. So cool. Before we continue, I duplicate my view, because it's always good to have a sorted file. Let's go just editing. So, and with this view, I want to work that now, because later on I can just delete this elevation and have a beautiful, nice bridge elevation available. So we can also select in the visible view and then hide in the view, hide them all. And what else? Yes, let's look at these beams here. So we select these beams, edit them, and then we see here our family. We can load this family, the new one I have in the BIM department. There we have in the example files the pre-stressed concrete eye girder with precamber, and load the in, but we also have the depth of the precamber. We got the value of 1.1 meters. We want to make it deep. So apart from this, we should be happy. So, and all our families are now here being updated. Also here we see here, we have here a small gap in between. This is because of the precamber, and the family has been modeled down here from the top down, and so that's why we have here some clashes we need to tidy up with our piers. Okay, so before we continue, we select all in the entire project, and we change them all in case we have them loaded. For instance, we can here just choose the other family. And we see they have all been updated now. So quickly let's have a look how this family looks like. So we have here a precamber, and we have a certain length. By the end we want only to drive this beam through the length, and the precamber, which is shown here as y, which gives me the radius of the x and the y together. So I need to somehow focus on this x, because the y I know, and this is half of the length with tangents better what we have here. And tangents better is because I know the angle. I can pick them from a parameter. This is half of the angle here minus the 90 degrees. Okay, because three angles in a triangle are 180 degrees. Good. And then later on I want to calculate also the angle. When I express the angle only through the y and the length, what I know, And here I have then that the delta angle here is an arcus tangens y over a, and a is just half of the length, because I have a relationship here from the midpoint to a talus circle. Probably have heard about this, that these relations of these angles, they are the same. They are 1 to 2. I have to double up the angle to get these. So let's see how this looks like in reality. And I have just here added the family. And when we select now the family, we see it's nothing else than just a sweep. We can also edit the sweep. And this is the profile I brought in. This is a pre-stressed girder profile. Also the other family has been defined with, and I just have exported this girder profile and just reloaded it into my new family, where I then have here just a curved, so an arc basically, a curve. And so go down, and now let's go into our formulas, and here we have just then our formulas which express it. It's basically here the precamber parameter default, which is an instant value, and then here the angle we express as well. Good. So this is how we have set up this family. There's always time, and if you want to work with these families, want to redefine them or make them better, there's always an option. There should be time available, because but remember, don't overmodel. Just keep the families as required as possible, just as true as possible. They just show enough information. Good. So next, what we can do now here, we can bring here step by step the piers down. We see here we have here a bit an offset, and we have also here our other bearings and our bearing plates are pedestal here. And so what we can do is we can just here step by step bring this now down, and let's start maybe with bring them down by 200. So step by step, and let's just focus maybe here on this right one, because once shown how this works with one, you can do it actually with any other one, and maybe you can just use some elevations or use some sections through the bridge. So we brought this 200 down. I'm doing this step by step because I want to be a bit sensitive to them. So it's very nice. So we were nearly fit, we're very close, we're nearly there here. And let's say we want to get maybe another 20, want to give them 60 makes 40 here. Yeah, we are definitely with this, the other 20 we are then part of it. Once if you get a feeling for the bridge, you definitely don't worry about these so much anymore. You just select them, bring them down. So because we have here now and a slide arc, we want to also exchange here our sliding elastomeric bearing, neoprene or something like this. So we can edit it, and can also load this in our example families, and we find here a sliding elastomeric bearing. Okay, open this up and then say okay, and we see that how this family has been created. So we can, for instance, say this is a little bit of a steel plate, then we have our neoprene, and then we have another steel plate with a steel plate and angle picking these up. And how this works, we can now here see. So we can, for instance, minus 0.9 degrees. For instance, this one might be a little bit too much, might be maybe even the 1.5 were right. It's going up maybe here. So, only thing is thickness we need to add on. Let's make this a little bit thicker, or we can also bring it up, of course. For this, we can get here a little bit of feeling from here to here. It's about 27.3, something like this. Brings up so slightly, so now we need to just play with our angle. So because we can simulate here actually reality, wow, pretty good there now. We can theoretically export these angles and all these values and the parameters. Let's try with the 9. Yeah, so if we would have an elevation, we would have here then everything in an angle, and the last we should also work with us. So this would be then part of the requirements when ordering the bearings for that. So how does this look like? It's just taking the standard family, and what we have here are just standard extrusion, okay, and here we have another extrusion, and this angle has been just here hooked up here with the bearing angle. We have here as parameter available. I've made here available here bearing angle, and this is just an instant parameter so that we can change it individually, and then we have just put another extension here with the other plate on top of it again. And when you see, we have also taken then here the parameters from the bottom one. So the same as well as here. So it's actually not complicated to create these families, and to also to adjust maybe the bearing pads to have a clean presentation. And only what we need to do now is to work with our slab what we have on top, because there we see we have a little bit a gap. So lastly I want to show you is how we can now create a section through all our hands here. So our girders, and let's go to view. Let's just create a section. Oops. And then later on, if you run through step by step, you just move your section. You hopefully also called it for editing. So and in case again you don't want the levels, just select all instances in this view, goodbye, and add them. So you see, just needs a couple of things you need to tidy up, so everything is sweet, nice, accessible. Just run through step by step. Remember, you can also have multiple windows open, so when we have, for instance, this, open, and then we have our bridge girder plan view open, and then we can, for instance, tile these here. Then we know where we are, and then run through our sections here step by step. It's always good to prepare the view. So, and then we see exactly what we are actually now touching. So, prepared for this girder. Looking into that. So you see we're just here on the second girder we are working now. Quickly bring this up, and then we can work here with our nice plates, and with our bearings can exchange them. What we can of course do, we can also select them all, exchange them one, and then just rotate them in place and run through and check the angles of them. So it would make it actually very fast. Cool. So might be a good exercise now, and with the next step we meet how we can fill here this gap here in between.